Starting with the Battle of the Hudson, Rangers go up 2-0 with 2 wins on the road in New Jersey. And then the Devils fire off 2 in a row at MSG. And just like that, we've got a series all tied up at 2 going into Game 5 on Thursday night, I believe it is. Case, is it on Thursday as well?
Thursday night.
So anyway, it's been great so far. So Chad, why don't we go to you first, and then we'll go to Case. Devils have made this a series. Just your thoughts on this one so far.
Yeah, well, initially when they went down 2-0, I, along with a lot of other people, were probably thinking the same thing. This team's done. They don't have what it takes to win in the playoffs, and
at least they got in. Yeah,
exactly. And this year doesn't matter. It's a young core. They got there, and this is step 1. Well, the Devils must have heard some of that criticism, and they said, "Hold on." Jack Hughes said, "Hold on. We're a resilient group here," and they showed that in games 3 and 4, taking 2 dubs on the opponent's ice. So that was just incredible to see. It seems like this series, through the first 2 games anyways, was all Rangers at 5-on-5 and special teams as well. And now it seems like it's kind of like completely flipped. I think the Rangers have been getting better goaltending throughout the entire series so far, but then Akira Schmid comes in and it plays a couple pretty good games for them. So, to me, this has been entertaining, exactly as advertised. I looked at some of the numbers, and it seems like, despite the fact that the first 2 games went one way pretty one-sidedly, and then the second 2 games went the other way fairly closely. It does seem like the numbers suggest that it's been a pretty close series overall when those 4 games are taken into account. So I'm just looking at the goals. It's 12-7, but then when you break it down to expected goals, it's only 12-10 in favor of the New York Rangers as well. Again, that suggests that the Rangers have been getting pretty damn good goaltending from their guy Shesterkin. Surprise, surprise. And the Devils didn't get very good goaltending through the first 2 games. And again, that meets what the eye test tells you as well. Vanecek wasn't great. Who knows if he'll be back in the series? He had a pretty good season. So, I don't know how long Schmid's, leash is here. But again, we'll see. And then just talking about a few players before I pass it to Casey here, I noticed that Hughes, Hamilton, and Bratt all have 3 points in 4 games, so they don't have a single guy above a point per game or kind of leading the charge. And I think that's a product of the first 2 games not going very well, and this series just being a low-scoring one for the most part anyways. But then on the other side, I saw that Kreider, Kane, and Fox all have 6 points in 4 games for the Rangers. So that's a bit scary because those are their big guys and they're producing. An X factor like Kane, who we weren't really exactly sure what we were going to get out of him, he's been really good. I still have an X factor for each team. Both guys have 0 points right now. One is Timo Meier for the Devils. 0 points on the board. You've got to imagine something's going to change with that guy. And Alexis Lafreniere, same thing, 0 points on the other side. You got to imagine something's about to give. What are your thoughts on this series, Chris?
I'm trying to take mental inventory of all the points I want to talk about that you just mentioned, and I've already lost half of them. I think the first one that I'm remembering I wanted to say something about is honestly after game 1 and some of game 2, I sat there thinking if this whole series was played 5-on-5, the Devils would win. And that includes the first 2 games. So I kind of disagree with you there. I think that 5-on-5, game 1, the Devils owned that game. It was the special teams where the Rangers really kicked the shit out of them. Rangers were 2 for 3 on the power play. Devils were 0 for 4. And they kind of just... I don't know. It changed the game. They scored 1 quick goal, 5-on-5, because, the Devils were admittedly shaky and, the experience, they looked like they were nervous going into that game. They scored a quick goal and then 2 power play goals. Chris Kreider has been phenomenal on the power play. So I definitely wanted to talk about the 5-on-5. And then Patrick Kane, first game, it took me until halfway through the third period to realize he was dressed for the New York Rangers. The second game, Showtime showed up, and he was phenomenal. Third game and fourth game, glimpses, but he has not been the Showtime I expected. Game 2, he was great. Yeah, I'll admit that one. First one, didn't even know he was there. Honestly, outside of the power play, I think that the Rangers have 1 or 2 lines. I've noticed this so far. The Panarin, Tarasenko, and Kreider line in the first game was the only one, and then games 2 to 4, the Kid line was the only line really producing. Panarin last night, giveaway machine. That line could not get anything going. But I'm touching on points. I'm kind of sporadic here. I kind of want to start back at the top and talk about a few things. First thing I want to say before I get into the actual series is count your blessings, Chad, that you can listen to the home broadcast. You can listen to Sportsnet during the Leafs games. I have Sportsnet. It makes it so that I have to watch TBS for the first couple of games and then ESPN for the second half of the games. Unbelievably biased commentary. I am getting so fed up of listening to how much they hate the Devils and how much they love the Rangers. Paul Bissonnette is openly biased in Spit and Chicklets, hating on Pasha and the Devils, and he's brought that to the TBS broadcast, and the first 2 games he was just absolutely ripping on them. The play-by-play is kind of... My example of how it would go was the Devils would carry the puck in and the Rangers would strip them, and they'd say, oh, what an unbelievable defensive play by the New York Rangers. The Rangers would come in and the Devils would bump them off the puck, take the puck and pass it up, and they go, oh, the Rangers fumbled the puck. If that kind of explains anything.
That does make sense,
Those were the first 2 games. The second 2 games with ESPN, Sean McDonough is my new least favorite commentator in the league, worse than Jack Adams. Or not Jack Adams.
Jack Edwards.
Jack Edwards.
Yep.
He's so boring, for one. And then he's so unbelievably biased. He just disses on the Devils the whole time. He said something that I've never heard a commentator before say in the NHL. He said that a player made the wrong decision. Hischier came in, I think it was a 3-on-3 break, and his 2 wings were tied up with players. He was getting pressure, so he chipped it in the corner. He says, Hischier coming in the zone. He's got men on each side. Oh, he dumps it in. That's the wrong decision there. I was like, what? Who are you? So that made me mad. And then the other example of just like so annoying, he's just like talking about how the Devils were tripping all over the place. That's because Madison Square Garden's ice is shit. And then the other thing was 10 minutes into the second period, the shot, he says, the Devils only have 1 shot at this point in the period. The shots were 3-1. 3-1. So I don't, and he was baffled at the end of the game. Oh, what a low shot affair. That's the playoffs, man. I know you're a college football commentator, but like, keep up. Keep up if you're going to be the ESPN guy. Ray Ferraro at times was being like, now the Devils are playing good defense too there, Sean, just to try to fix it. But anyways, I had to vent about that. That was driving me insane. I guess I have to live with it because I have to watch them do it. But I'll say Messier and Subban were great in Game 3, and Callahan and Kevin Weeks were great last night as well. So that was more enjoyable. The next thing is inexperience. Let's put that to rest. The first 2 games, they really showed their inexperience. And, you know, everyone pointing out losing 2 home games, it's all because they're an inexperienced team, while the Rangers just lost 2 at home as well. They've clawed back. Let's drop the inexperience thing. Something I need to point out is that Andre Palat in Game 3 was the worst player on the ice for both teams. Last night, invisible except for his empty net goal. So the guy with the most experience has been non-existent for the Devils. Timo Meier last night, Chad, was breaking sticks on the bench. He's so fed up with how bad he's been playing. He has more experience than most of the Devils. So let's just put that to rest. Let's move on and pick out something else to talk about. I got to talk about the officiating. Officiating league-wide has been absolutely miserable.
Atrocious.
The amount of calls is ridiculous. To say that the Rangers in the first 2 games had 10 power plays in the playoffs is is atrocious. And then they continued to have 8 in the next 2. So that has been brutal to watch. They've called bad calls both ways, but more calls in general all across the league. And it's been brutal to watch. Rebecca has been watching every game with me. And she's saying, like, this is kind of hard to watch with how many penalties there have been. And she's, a very casual fan. So it's pretty bad. And it's really hurt the Devils in the first 2 games. Their special teams were brutal. The Rangers put it to them, but things have turned around as the Rangers have gone 0 for 10 on their power plays, their last 10 power plays. And that's really hurt them because 5-on-5, the Devils have been a very good team. So talking about another thing here is the giveaway game. Oh my God, the first 2 games were so bad for the Devils. The giveaways were 28-9 in the first 2 games.
Oh.
Game 3 and 4, they're 34-22. Rangers had 34 giveaways. I think Panarin had 14 last night. It's been unbelievable. The other thing is that the Devils have been dominating the face-off game, and it has shown that is affecting this series for sure. Gallant actually pointed it out last night. He said, our team was soft all night. They didn't put up a big fight. The only fight they did was whining about the linesman not dropping the puck at the face-off. And it really just every time Michael McLeod wins the face-off back, it's a breakout. They're down the ice. So the Devils have the momentum going into Game 5 at home. They've turned this thing around. The Rangers dominated them the first 2 games, while I think the Devils dominated them last night. It was a 3-1 game, so the score might not say that, but there was no time I felt overly threatened by the Rangers last night, because the Devils were playing this hybrid of the old-time Devils hockey with the shut down trap, playing a 1-2-2 most of the game, and then taking chances when they're there, more so than they ever did before. Right away, Jack Hughes scoring on the breakaway to kick that game off was a game changer, because they had the lead and then they played defense. They got scored on eventually. They lost a face-off finally. Trocheck scores, but then they gained their composure. They scored again, and then they shut it down again. And it was kind of nice to watch that Game 4. Game 2, or 1-2, I was just a wreck. Game 3 felt a little better, and didn't feel great until Dougie Hamilton scored, and then Game 4 was awesome. So this series has really turned around. I've been talking forever. I've said a lot. Akira Schmid is the man now. Vitek Vanacek has been very supportive in this, says Lindy Ruff. So it sounds like Schmid will keep going, and man, is that impressive for a 22-year-old rookie to be playing as good as he has been.
I'm glad you mentioned the goaltending, because that's something that I wanted to bring up as well. Like, I know we mentioned it in passing, but so you are on board with this decision then to just run Schmid and see what happens?
They talked it to death in both games that Schmid was in the net, but he is so calm and collected in the net. He is positionally sound. It's actually a note I have here to talk about, is that Mackenzie Blackwood has probably played his last game in a Devils jersey because of Akira Schmid.
Oh, yeah.
Schmid has been phenomenal.
100%.
He's 6'5" and 200 and something pounds. He fills the net. He's moving so effortlessly and so economically, is what Ray Ferraro kept saying. In the net, he's economical. He does not waste any energy at all. And it's amazing.
I don't like that term.
His composure is ridiculous for a 22-year-old guy. Like, he's been great. I actually have all the faith in the world in him, so I would run him until he does something atrocious, I guess.
Fair enough. I don't like the term economical. I don't mind the term efficient to describe a goaltender, but economical sounds just awful on the eardrums. Thanks, Ray Ferraro.
Yeah.
Anyway, Harper, what are your thoughts here? I feel like Casey and I have been going back and forth. We haven't heard from you. You're the outsider. You're the unbiased one, the only one on the pod here. What do you have to say about this series?
Yeah, I'm the only one actually enjoying the playoffs, while you two are just stressed out all the time and nervous wrecks.
I can't believe I don't smoke yet. That's what I said last night. I can't believe I don't smoke. Oh my God, so stressful.
Yeah, I went to get a haircut today, and the guy just kind of gently pulled the hair out of my head. He was like, "Oh, I don't really need to cut this."
Oh, geez. But you know what? No, this it would have been so easy for the Devils to just roll over and quit. And stick with the narrative that we all had, and I was guilty of it too. After the first 2 games that they lost, okay, they're done, inexperienced. At least they got in. Case, you got to be happy with that. But no, they're a resilient group. They're a young group, and I look at that third game, Dougie Hamilton, in that second year of that long-term deal, he didn't have a great season last year. Really, no one on the Devils did last year, and he steps up big. He has a huge year, and comes up big for them in that moment. So, one of their veteran guys it continues to just step up for them, and that's Dougie Hamilton, the $9 million defenseman, and then your cornerstone player in Jack Hughes, one of your cornerstone guys, scores a big goal last night in that fourth game, and just a great response. Again, one of the best road teams in the NHL in the regular season. I'm not surprised at all. And you got to ride the hot hand. It's Schmid's net now, and I think what this series is going to come down to at the end of the day is who can score more goals 5-on-5. We know that New Jersey is good with, that New York has a good power play and everything, but I just feel like, the team that scores more 5-on-5 is going to end up winning this series. And, Case, you were very critical of Panarin, and rightfully so. Statistically, in his career so far, he has not been a great playoff performer. He really hasn't. So that's kind of the one guy I'm looking at on the Rangers to kind of to step up a little bit and finally prove that he can produce in the playoffs. And then obviously for New Jersey, you're happy that you're going back to your home building, tied at 2 in this series, but you're looking for a guy like Palat or Meyer, who was obviously a big addition to make some contribution. But hey, you will get wins any way they come in the playoffs. They've done that. They've rattled off 2 in a row at on the road, and going back to New Jersey, tied at 2. So very impressed. It's great to see, and so fitting for the Battle of the Hudson. It's great.
Yeah, just to touch on a couple points that you made there. They did have 28 road wins this season, which is they tied the franchise record this year. And
yep.
You mentioned, after 2 games, a lot of people were counting them out. I was counting them out after 3 games. I said if they lose game 3, it's over. But game 3 was everything for the series, because I couldn't count out this team after what they did this season. I think they led the league in comeback wins. Maybe Toronto was tied with them, or they were right up there. I remember the stat was 22 at one point where they both had. And so I just couldn't count the team out yet. I don't think we'd seen the best of them yet. Jack Hughes, you mentioned, game 1 and 2 was very shaky, and you could tell he was nervous. Well, he figured it out. I think that penalty shot goal did do a lot for him, and then game 2 he was slightly better. Game 3, way better. Game 4, he was feeling himself last night. Jack Hughes skating around doing shit that I don't even understand again. I'll talk about some of the Rangers, though, that I have to mention, and a couple guys I've dumped on a lot in the past. Well, that kid line has been excellent. Every time they're on the ice, they're in the Devil's corner, mashing their defensemen and working the puck around. Lots of great chances. Lafreniere's got a few scary looks. If he could hit the net, he'd have a couple goals. And they're scaring me. I don't like when they're on the ice, more so than anyone else on the Rangers. Shesterkin, I don't need to say anything else. He is great. Yep. The only way the Devils have beaten him is on a shootout or a penalty shot, a power play, or a perfect shot from Siegenthaler, which is crazy to say, I guess. Couple Devils I have to talk about before we move on. Ryan Graves, who played 24 minutes last night, and John Marino played more than 24 minutes, I believe. They have been a rock. John Marino is that man that I talked about earlier in the season as being the Devils' best defenseman. After his injury things trailed off a little bit, he is back to being that man. I am so comfortable when he is on the ice. He is always in the perfect position and doesn't do anything stupid, which is what you want from a defenseman in the playoffs. Play defense, don't do anything stupid. So I had to point that out. The other thing, I don't want to talk negatives about the Devils, but I think Miles Wood just played his last game as a Devil as well. He played poorly in game 1, took some stupid penalties in both games, was scratched in game 3, and they've won both games with him out of the lineup. Well, I think that's it then, because this is a guy that you kind of expect the way he plays the game will bring a different factor into the playoffs. Well, he hasn't got it done. Curtis Lazar has been better in the playoffs than him, so I think he made himself expendable when he's a UFA at the end of this year. He's probably going to be on a team out west come the next season.
Case, I had a couple questions to ask you, just because obviously you're closest to the team. The first was about the Siegenthaler healthy scratch. What did you think of that? And then the second question is, do you think Luke Hughes will get into the lineup and be able to make a difference? Or do you think it's just too early for him?
I think eye test, Siegenthaler was not good in game 1 and 2. Or game 1, he was scratched for 2.
Right. The underlying numbers suggest otherwise. That's why you said eye test. Yeah.
The eye test, he was not very good. He was kind of just there. He wasn't bringing an edge. He wasn't kind of being the shutdown guy, but the underlying numbers said he was good. So they brought Brendan Smith in. Honestly, I thought Brendan Smith played fairly well. He was laying the body quite a bit. But I think... Siegenthaler has to stay in now. He's been playing great ever since that scratch. Maybe he just needed a wake-up call or something. I don't know. Lindy Ruff makes some crazy changes sometimes. Well, they paid off in game 3. Miles Wood being out and Siegenthaler being back in is one of them. Schmid, obviously, that's huge. But as for Luke Hughes, I don't know what to do here because Kevin Ball had a shaky game 2, but game 3, game 4, he has been very solid. He brings a very physical, feisty game.
Yeah, big body.
And he's been moving the puck better ever since. Actually, last night, you could hear from the bench, and the commentators pointed this out, everyone was yelling no when he was skating up with the ice once, or skating up the ice with the puck once. The bench was going, no, no, and he dumped it in and skated off, and it was like, yep, that's what we need, Kevin. Like,
big
get
baller.
out there, hit some people, break out passes, and get off the ice. But man, he like drew a penalty out of Panarin one night just by kind of pushing him around a bit and then letting him punch him in the face, and it was just like, he has played very well. Now, I think maybe we see a Luke Hughes if it comes down to a knockout game, or like if the Rangers win the next one, maybe we see Luke in game 6. But I don't know. I really don't need. I don't know what they need out of the team right now. You look at the game last night. It was the shutdown game that won it for them. So do you bring in Luke Hughes, who's more of a willy-nilly, puck moving guy, or do you keep a Kevin Ball, Siegenthaler type lockdown defensive strategy, which worked very well? So I don't want to be making that decision. I'm glad Lindy Ruff is doing it.
It's a tough one.
I don't think it's a bad thing at all to have Luke sitting and just watching, like just being around the team, just getting exposed to how these guys prepare, seeing what his brother is doing in his first playoff series ever as a National Hockey League player, because we know down the road that, I mean, Luke is going to be out there in every single situation on the blue line for the Devils in the postseason. So I don't think it's bad at all for him to just be watching from above and just being around the team while they're going through this. But it would be cool to see him get in there, because when he finally got in with the Devils towards the end of the season there, he did look pretty good. But yeah.
Yeah, if we could have a McAvoy situation on our hands, I would love that. But I think McAvoy plays a different game.
Yeah,
that's
McAvoy,
sure.
Just two-way, like solid, one of the best guys in the league. Like
I'm just saying, remember when he was an NCAA player and came in as a rookie? Like at the end of the year, they signed him, brought him in. He played in the playoffs and was a game changer. So it was like,
Yeah.
I
Well,
love that.
look at that first game that Brock Faber had. That play that he made with the stick with Minnesota. So you see guys come in right away. I think the Devils just have so much depth back there and experience that you don't want to shuffle that up too much. So.
Harper, how are you going to mention Brock Faber before Matthew Knies, who pulled the puck off of the goal line to start the comeback for the Maple Leafs in Game 4?
Well, we haven't gotten to that series yet.
Forwards, Chad. I'm not talking about get him out. That's why I said McAvoy and not Knies.
No, but he said Brock Faber. You kidding me, Harper? Where are you going with this?
Turning it into forward is a whole different thing. If Luke Hughes was a forward, I'd say get him in the game right now. But
yeah.